The Straw Hat Pirates, a wonderful crew, probably one of the best crews of all of Shonen. But who's going to be the 10th and final member of the Straw Hat Pirates? How's it going, guys? Foulplace here. Today we're going to be doing another kind of discussion video. Not really a discussion video, whatever it is. Yes, in today's video we are going to be discussing possibly the last Straw Hat member. So the way that we are going to rank this is what their role will be on the crew, their backstory, and then lastly, their likelihood of joining. But before we get into the video, don't forget to smash that like button down below and click subscribe, and don't forget to click all notifications so you get an alert for every single one of the videos that I upload. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first character on my list is Caesar Clown. Now Caesar Clown is an oddball character. Really, I don't see him coming onto the crew, so I'm gonna give him a 2 out of 10 for the likelihood of joining. But before then, let's go ahead and let's figure out why I would think that he could possibly join. So the first point that I want to bring out is that Oda has stated before that the last member that will join will end up being a previous enemy of the Straw Hat Pirates. And Oda has been seen to do this with characters such as Robin. And one thing to add, Oda is somewhat of a troll sometimes, so you know, he could be trying to pull a fast one on us and just shock everybody as the last member to join. Now, as for the role that Caesar would play, I could see him kind of playing a scientist role, kind of like doing experiments, not like the ones on Punk Hazard. No, please no. But I could see him maybe looking into the reasons why devil fruits exist, maybe how to enhance the devil fruits of the current members, and maybe he could do some experiments on, you know, Frankie trying to make as much power go through Frankie's body. We could see him try to strengthen Zoro's swords. You never know with him. I think it would be kind of cool to see the dynamic between the characters on there. So there's one thing that actually counteracts the whole Caesar joining the crew, and that would be his history with Vegapunk. I don't see him joining just because that would counteract Frankie's goal of trying to be the better version of Vegapunk and all of that. So that's why I ranked Caesar a little bit down, and we already don't know any of his backstory, so we really don't know that much about Caesar. All we know is that he's a fucking asshole, he did experiments on kids, and he's a fucking troll. It would be awesome to see him on the crew, but without further ado, let's go ahead into the next character. The next character on my list is Bon Clay. Now, Bon Clay is one of those characters that was introduced during Alabasta arc, and he was a member of the Baroque Works agency that ended up falling through once Crocodile was defeated. Spoiler alert, sorry about that, you should have already known about that. But we already know a little bit about his backstory. We actually lived through his backstory to be frank, and that kind of also ties into Robin's backstory, so you never know. They could have some, talks about, their time with Baroque Works, and maybe they could bring back memories of that. You never know. You never actually know. But we also saw him during the Impel Down arc helping out Luffy, and he did state that he wants to, help out the Straw Hats as much as possible. And we saw him kind of like trying to save Luffy during the whole Impel Down when he had a bunch of poison in him, and he knew where to send him and who to bring him to. So we know that he is very, very loyal to Luffy, but there's one thing that we do not know about him, and that is his goals. He has no current goals right now in mind. Maybe he could be like one of the best fashionistas. You never fucking know. Maybe he wants to make the best clothes of all of the world. You never know with Bon Clay. He's a wild card. We could definitely see him pulling some sort of stealth operations for the Straw Hats. I think that would be really fucking cool for that to happen. But the likelihood of him joining, I don't see him joining as much just because he's stuck in Impel Down right now. But again, with the shit happening in Reverie, you never fucking know. He could join in literally the next arc, and we wouldn't even expect you. You would never expect that shit would happen in during the Reverie arc, and he would get out of Impel Down. Now, as for his role, I would definitely see him being more of a barber or a tailor, like trying to make different clothes with the Straw Hats, since that's kind of what his whole, I guess, vibe is. Like, he could change himself to look like anybody else. You know, he could technically just, I guess, take on a whole another image if he's seen the person. So I think that would be a pretty good role for him. Now, in the next spot, I have Tama. Now, Tama is one of those characters that has a little bit more of a chance on getting into the crew than Bon Clay and Caesar, just because of their ranking right now. I could see her joining as a beast tamer, which wouldn't be that much of a skill or like a fighting combat style, so maybe she could just here have my little snack and go put it in this monster's mouth, and so we could tame it and all of that. So I really just don't see her being a major fighter on the crew. She's just gonna give them the pouch and then they're done, which that's one thing that I do want to mention. I do think that Tama is gonna have a big role in Wano, where she's gonna come in and she's gonna just wreak havoc and end up taking on a beast pirate for herself and just like, here, now you're on our side, haha, and all that shit. So we already do know that she has a huge connection with Luffy, with Ace's flashback and all of that. So we already know that she has some sort of connection with the Straw Hat Pirates. We already know that she admires Luffy a lot just because of the way he treated her whenever they first met. Now, as for the likelihood of her joining, I don't see it just because of her age. It's higher than the other two. I'm gonna give them a 3 out of 10. I really don't see it just because of her age. So for the next pick on my list, I have Momonosuke. Now, Momonosuke has a bunch of backstory already. He's pretty much the heir of the throne in Wano, and definitely that just says a lot right there. And there is one thing that is definitely standing out already to me, and that his father was actually a part of Roger's crew. And that stands out a lot to me, just kind of like mirroring his father's role, kind of just like, hey, I'm gonna be like my father. I'm gonna go and sail with the next future king of the pirates. I believe that Luffy is gonna be the next king. And there's another thing that he also has up his belt. He can read poneglyphs, so that is an amazing feat on itself. Definitely, I could see him sitting down with Robin, like deciphering poneglyphs and all that shit. So I think that would be definitely really cool. And there's another thing already there, and that he admires Luffy already. So he could definitely be training with Luffy on learning how to use Haki and all that other stuff. So you never know. But there is something else that I want to bring up, in that he doesn't really know how to use his devil fruit, right? So maybe Chopper could train him, since, you know, Chopper's a zone type user. Maybe he could, you know, possibly use his devil fruit and train him on how to change easily and how to use some of his powers. You never know with him. But his role on the ship, I could definitely see him being someone like a translator, and that he can translate between the different languages, since he was already pretty much a diplomat kind of deal with before he even traveled through time and all of that. But as for the likelihood of him joining, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. I really don't see him joining unless some major shit happens with Wano. More likely, I see Momonosuke probably taking up his role as the next, you know, shogun of Wano. So that's the way I see it. At least until he's up to age, he will be being trained in the role of being the shogun. Now, moving on into our next pick, I have Law. Now, there's a lot of things that counteract Law joining the crew. One of those things is that he already has his own crew. There would be no point of, you know, Law joining the crew if, you know, we have his crew with Peppo and all of them. So there's no reason of him joining unless his crew, you know, disbands after Wano and, you know, Law becomes his own man. But we've already seen his backstory with Dressrosa, so you never know. We could see some shit. Maybe they join up together and all of that. But one thing that already does counteract his goal is that he wants to be the king of the pirates, just like Luffy. So that could be something that just doesn't settle well with Luffy, and Luffy's like, you know, you're gonna be a warrior for me or some shit like that. You never know. I foresee him more joining the Grand Fleet, if anything, but there's still that slight possibility. As for his role on the ship, I could see him being a doctor, if anything, but then again, we already have Chopper, so there's really no reason to have Law on the crew. That's why I'm gonna put Law as like a 1 out of 10, but I definitely do want to see Law be a part of the Straw Hats, just because he has so much of a good dynamic with all of them, and, you know, it would be nice to see him, you know, on the ship every time with us, so I would be down with Law joining the crew, okay? But moving on, we have Sabo. Now, Sabo. Don't get me started on Sabo. Now, I definitely do see Sabo joining if Luffy actually asks him to join. That is the key. Luffy has to ask. So before we even start talking about Sabo, I just want to let everybody know that is already watching. This is going to be containing a lot of manga spoilers, so if you don't want to hear about that, come back to this video at a later date, probably a year or so from now. There's a bunch of shit already going down in Reverie, and don't want to spoil people about that. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, right now, there's a bunch of shit happening in Reverie. It could trigger a disbandment of the Revolutionary Army, where we could possibly see Sabo becoming a rogue, just revolutionary member. I don't know what to call him. I definitely think that Sabo has already been captured and is possibly being executed again at New Marineford. As we know, there's already a New Marineford base, so maybe Luffy could go over there and could possibly try to do a Ace Part 2, you know? But this time, he actually saves his brother this time because he has his full crew there to help him. So that's where I kind of do see Sabo joining the crew. And it could activate a near-death experience with Ace and all that. So maybe Luffy's like, no, now because you've already been captured once, you know, I don't want to lose another brother. So you're joining my crew now, fam. Come here. Let's join my crew. But as for his role on the ship, I could see him being a warrior for the crew. Kind of like how Zoro and Sanji already are. And that he could possibly just, you know, help out with the fighting. Like, he's looking out. He could see, like, who's coming near and all of that. So, I definitely could see him joining if Luffy offers to him. And if he's already been captured at New Marineford. So for that, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. Now, the next character on my list is none other than Vivi. Now, Vivi, I could definitely see joining the crew again because there's already a bunch of stuff happening in Alabasta with the whole Reverie shit. We know that there's some shit going on in Alabasta. So maybe Vivi's like, yo, Straw Hat Pirates, can y'all come and help me out? And maybe there'll be a split in the group where one party goes to save Sabo and maybe there's another party that goes and saves Vivi and goes back to Alabasta. You never know with this. So, there's already one thing that already comes to mind, and that is that Vivi's already been on the crew. We've already got a really close bond with Vivi. We know all of her goals and all of that. So, that's already one thing that she has a plus on. There's already an alliance formed with the Straw Hats, so all she could be like is, yo, come help me, you know, type of deal. And they're gonna join, you know, they're gonna come and help her. Now, as for her role on the ship, I could definitely see her becoming maybe a diplomat, like making all the money decisions, kind of the alliances and all of that, since right now that's really been Nami's goal, and Nami's not supposed to be doing that role, you know. She's supposed to be the navigator, not the diplomat of the cruise. I could definitely see Vivi picking up that role if she were to join, and that would also lead into, you know, another step of her character arc. Now, as for how likely I see Vivi joining, I'm gonna put it as a 8 out of 10, but there has to be some shit that happens in Reverie, and they have to actually travel to Alabasta. Now on into the next character is a fan favorite, and this is Carrot. I actually am a Carrot stan myself. I'm gonna be straight up honest with you boys and girls. I love Carrot. She's probably one of my favorite characters. But the reason why I see Carrot joining out of any other character is just because of Pedro's will. If you don't remember, in Whole Cake Island, Pedro pretty much sacrificed himself to save the Straw Hat Pirates. So pretty much Pedro said in his will that Luffy will be the king of the pirates and that he would have done anything to protect his friends, yada yada yada, and that he would pretty much have joined the Straw Hats. Now, there's already a bunch of stuff that we already know about Carrot. We already know that she has a big closeness with the Straw Hats, and we already lived her backstory pretty much. So her backstory was pretty much Pedro's death. You know, that was her master. You know, her master died in trying to protect the Straw Hats. So maybe she wants to live up to Pedro's dream. She wants to be the most powerful minx you never know. And now there's another deal in there, and that is just to please the fans. You know, Carrot's been one of those characters that everybody's pretty much like, yes, Oda, please make her a part of the Straw Hats. Just help us out this once, you know? And as for her role on the ship, I could definitely see her being a lookout. You know, she's already done that pretty much within the series, so she's pretty much already been seen, you know, with the binoculars on the ship, being like, oh look, there's Wano, you know, there's Whole Cake, oh look, there's Whole Cake. You know, I could definitely see her joining. I would definitely give her a 9.5 out of 10, if anything. But there's still one more character that I think could definitely join the crew, and that would be Yamato. Now, Yamato is one of the new characters in the latest chapters, and we've seen a lot about Yamato in the last, like, what is it, 3 chapters, and there's still so much more that we don't know about her. Now, as for her gender, I'm just gonna refer to her as a female for right now. I don't know really how, you know, I know that Kaido refers to her as a son, but everyone else has referred to her as a her. So I'm going to refer to her as a her. If I'm wrong, please let me know, because I don't want to be wrong on that. But the reason why I see her joining it is more so the idolization of Oden. Now, as for Oden, Oden was wanting to always open up the borders to Wano, allowing others to get into Wano and just come and visit, and, you know, wanted everybody to live in harmony and peace. So that's one thing that Yamato wants to strive for, and there's already been a lot of details with her trying to imitate Oden in that faction. And we already know that she has a bunch of backstory with Ace and all of that, so maybe she's already getting some sort of feeling that Luffy's related to Ace. I think it was actually previously stated in the previous chapter that she knows that Ace is related to Luffy. I don't know, please, Future Brights, correct me. Now, there's one thing that I definitely want to bring up, and that is that she wanted to sail the ocean with Oden and Ace. Now, in saying that, she was like, I want to join your crew. I want to be around. I want to sail across the ocean and meet a bunch of other people, you know? And another thing that I want to bring up is that we're already seeing her backstory already being played out. You know, maybe in the next chapter, we'll see some backstory from Yamato where we get to see, like, her being abused, because we already know that she got abused by Kaido. And she probably wants to go and get revenge on Kaido on all the shit that she's been put through, you know? I wouldn't want to be abused. I mean, and if I had a chance to, you know, go and get revenge on the guy that abused me, I would definitely want to do that, you know? And there's one thing that's already been stated, and that is that she's already a fan favorite of a lot of people. A lot of people already like her, and I could definitely see her joining. But right now, due to the current state of where we're at, I really don't know where to put her as a crew member, just because there's so little that we know about her. So for right now, I'm going to put her as a frontline warrior, but possibly we could see her being like the lookout. I could definitely see her being on the lookout, you know, looking out there on top of the lookout, kind of being like, oh, there's Elbath. Oh, look, Luffy, there's a big sea creature, we might want to steer right or steer left. You never know. But it is definitely too early to call for her joining. But I definitely do foresee her joining if anybody out of Wano is going to join. It's definitely going to be either her or Carrot. So, I give Yamato a 10 out of 10 of likelihood of joining. I definitely do see it, if anything. But with that, I think this is going to be the end of today's video. Don't forget to smash the like button down below. And don't forget to subscribe. And make sure you have all notifications clicked as well. And without further ado, I'm going to get the heck out of here. I'm Foul Plays, and I'm out. Peace.